music theory for guitar. Start with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the natural scale. Those notes are going to give you 6 pentatonic scales. They're going to give you your major and minor scales. They're going to give you your natural modes. They're going to give you a ton of chords, right? All the arpeggios. But most importantly, you're going to learn how chords function. Okay, you could also begin to uncover the true nature of harmony with them. And there is a ton of other lessons like modal transposition of subjects. Just there's so much you could do with the natural scale. I believe that is the best place to begin. So in this video, I'm going to take you through, pretty good detail of what's going on with these 7 natural notes. I think it'll be a good thing to look at. Since the pentatonic scale is one of the most popular played scales on the guitar, I think we should look at that because there's a really big misconception that the black keys are the origin of your pentatonic scale, and that's not the case. I want to show you that in detail. But when you're first starting with theory, you got to uncover the most basic fundamental concept in all of music theory. And it's as follows. A pure tone note by itself is meaningless, okay? It's only when you surround that note by other notes that it takes on meaning. And this concept is overlooked and oftentimes it's misunderstood. But that is one of the principles of our music theory, okay? So remember, a note by itself is meaningless. Once you surround that note with other notes, it takes on value. It's very important to understand this. The second thing that we have to understand is, why is the C major scale so important? What is it about that scale? To put it plainly, the C major scale is our system of measurement, okay? Just how the metric system is used for science and physics, right? We use our C major scale as our system of measurement for music. So 2 things to start with. A note by itself is meaningless, okay? The C major scale is our system of measurement in which all things are defined. So with that said, let's jump in and let's start to go over and cover some of the subjects I talked about, starting with the pentatonic scales. I think that you're going to find this fairly interesting if you don't know, or if you're just eager to learn more. So let's take a look. Here on display, I have the natural scale. Watch what happens if I take away the B and F. All of a sudden, something else is revealed to us, and watch one more time. So I'm removing the B and the F, and you might notice that once this happens, right there, we see our, famous pentatonic shape. Now, before I go into detail about this scale, I want you to observe 2 other things that are going to happen. So I'm going to go back to the natural scale. I've got the full natural scale across the guitar. And now I'm going to subtract the B and the E from the scale, and watch what happens. We could see that the same exact scale shape forms right between the 10th fret and the 13th fret. So let's go back to our natural scale and let's make one more observation, okay? So this time I'm going to remove the C and the F. And now we can again see that our pentatonic scale pattern is reappearing at the open fret area. So observing all 3 of them, we could see that the same exact scale pattern is appearing. And I'm only using the natural scale, but this should reveal something to you, something about this. This dot pattern that you see is very misleading because it's not giving you the full picture. So if you are using books or looking at resources online that just show you black dots, just be informed that you are not going to grasp what's really happening with just black dots, because as you could see from the visual examples, we have 3 different patterns that are exactly the same appearing in different places of the neck, and all I'm doing is subtracting notes. So I want to go back in. We're going to look at this a little bit more detail. They are what's considered a modal variance of the pentatonic scale. As we discuss modes, this will make a little bit more sense, but let's go back in and let's talk about the pentatonic scale more. I want to show you a couple more visualizations, just so you could see what's going on and how they are different from one another, even though they look exactly the same. In order to create the pentatonic scale, we remove dissonant tones from our system of measurement, the C major scale. So by removing the B and the F, I have now created my C major pentatonic and my A minor pentatonic, which is the popular one, I would call it. This scale is so popular because the removal of these tones allow you to play freely without having notes that cause, dissonant problems or notes that could potentially sound wrong, is a simple way of putting it. One unique attribute of the pentatonic scale is that we get no notes that are a half step apart. So in other words, you will never find a note that is touching another note when we play our pentatonic. And looking at the upper left corner, our full natural scale, we could see there's notes all over that touch each other. Those are our half step tones, and that's where the dissonance is created by notes that are very close together. By examining these, we look at the A minor pentatonic in the bottom right corner, and when we cross-reference it with our natural scale, we could see that we have our passing tones. Let's look at just the E string and the B string to keep it simple. But on the E string, we could see that there is a pattern of a whole step, half step. And on the B string, we could see that there is a pattern of a half step, whole step. And herein lies the difference between the different pentatonic scales that appear. Here we're looking at the Dorian and the Lydian variants of the pentatonic scale. And what we'll notice on the high E string is a pattern of a whole step, half step, and the same on the B string, a pattern of a whole step, half step. Keep in mind that the notes you're seeing from the natural scale are the passing tones of the scale, thus the notes that are surrounding that pentatonic. And lastly, we're looking at the Phrygian and Mixolydian pentatonic setting. So we'll notice on the high E string, we have a pattern of a half step, whole step. Same on the B string, we have a pattern of a half step, whole step. With all that said, now we could examine all three of them at the same time. And we see in the upper right corner, the black dot pattern that I hate is represented inside all of the red squares. So the blue dots represent the passing tones, and what we notice is that in each of these settings, it's the passing tones that are moving. Now, the passing tones are across the whole neck because they follow the natural scale, but since I was referencing the E string and B string, I wanted to keep it a little bit cleaner looking. Hopefully this allows you to gain some insight as to why these black dot patterned displays are just not providing you a full picture. Now, in order to utilize these scales, we have to understand our modes and we have to understand our chords. But for right now, what I want you to do is just take note of how much information, even if you don't understand it all yet, was revealed to you about this one simple pentatonic scale. I believe that as we go through and as we look at other things, more pieces of the puzzle will start to come together for you. Modes are easy to understand, but they're a little bit more difficult to actually use. The modes, to put it simply, are a tonal point of view or a tonal perspective of an entire system. For us right now in this video, our entire system is the natural scale across the whole entire guitar neck. If I were to play from any letter to that same letter in alphabetical order, I would be playing a mode. For example, if I play from C to C in alphabetical order, I'm playing the first mode, the C major scale, which is called Ionian. And if I go to the D note and I play from D to D in alphabetical order, I would get my second mode, which is Dorian. And this list, I'll put the list up on the screen, but this list goes on for each letter. To think about this visually, you could just take an object, like I have a roll of tape here. This whole roll of tape is an entire thing, okay? But if we look at it from this point of view, we'll describe it one way. If we look at it from this side, we would be looking at it from a different perspective and we would draw it different. We would describe it differently. If I were to put it on an angle here, you see how that little eye shape appears? That's a unique characteristic of looking at this object from this point of view, okay? So when we take tonality, and we basically take it and we shape it and form it into a point of view that is unique, like that I pattern. So when I'm playing something like F to F in Lydian, that has a very, very distinct sound to it because it is a tonal point of view of our entire system. When humans first started doing music and writing music, we would sing and we'd have multiple people singing, and these voices would come together to create harmony. Okay. And as time progressed, these harmonies became known as chords. In this video, we are going to look at chord structure within the natural scale and on the guitar neck, not functions. Chord function will be saved for another video, but let's examine the structure. And I think there's a lot to learn with just looking at the natural scale and how chords are structured. If I were to take the piano and play every other note for 3 notes, that would give me a chord. So our triads are based on 3 notes, and they are every other note from the natural scale. So let's go in and look and talk about chord structure and examine some neat attributes about chord structure, and we'll look at it across the guitar neck as well. We're going to begin by numbering the C major scale from 1 through 7. The second thing we're going to want to know is the Roman numerals, and with Roman numerals we could have capital and lowercase. The capital Roman numeral equals a major chord. The lowercase Roman numeral equals a minor chord. Think of the triad as the DNA of chords. The root is the letter name of the chord. It's the foundation that everything is built on. The third decides whether or not the chord is major or minor, so the third is a quality. And the fifth just adds strength and stability, filling out the sound of the chord. But the fifth can also be altered to cause instability, and that's something we'll discuss later on. To build our first chord, we begin on the letter C and go every other letter, and we get C, E, G as our triad. Take note that the Roman numeral is capital, so it's a C major chord. And if we look at the guitar neck, you may have heard of something called inversions or chord voicings. Once you have C, E, G across the guitar neck, you now have access to all of your chord voicings for C major, all of your inversions, and all of your arpeggios as well. For inversions, it's only what's in the bass that matters. If the root is in the bass, it's a root chord. If the third is in the bass, it's called first inversion. If the fifth is in the bass of the chord, it is called second inversion. For inversions, it does not matter what comes after the bass note. To build our second chord, we start on D and go every other letter. We end up with the triad D, F, A. Take note that the Roman numeral is lowercase, so the 2 chord in the key of C is a D minor chord. This chart gives you every possible way to play a D minor chord. It gives you all of the voicings, all of the inversions, and all of the arpeggios up to 12th fret. When I think of the D minor chord, this is what I visualize in my mind. I don't think of a singular chord, but rather an entire structure across the neck. And this is something that you're going to want to develop over time. And in other videos, I'm going to teach you how to learn this. Let's go back and build the rest of our chords. Starting on the third, I build my triad E, G, B. The 3 chord is a minor chord. Starting on my fourth, F, I build a triad of F, A, C. The 4 chord is major. The 5th chord would be G, B, D. The 6th chord would be minor, lowercase 6, and that is A, C, E, so an A minor chord. The 7th chord is B, D, F. It's a lowercase Roman numeral, but this chord has a diminished quality. The 7th chord is diminished. With the triads, the most important thing you could do for right now is memorize the Roman numeral qualities. So 1, 4, and 5 is major, 2, 3, and 6 is minor. The 7th is diminished. That is something you're going to want to memorize because it stays the same throughout all of the keys. The next thing you might be wondering is, well, what about 7th, 9th, and 11th chords? The 7th, 9th, and 11th chords are built just the same way we build the triads. So what we do is if, for example, we take the C chord, C, E, G is our triad. If I skip up one more letter, I end up arriving at B, which is the 7th tone away from C. That would give me my C major 7 chord. Now, the 7ths have properties, okay? And I'm going to list them up on the screen for you. What I am going to do is when I make a more advanced chord video, I will go through how we arrive at these properties, which will be another in-depth video. But for right now, you add a 7th, all we do is we skip up another letter. And if we add a 9, we skip up another letter and add it in. And if we do an 11th chord, we skip up again and add that in as well. Something like C add 9, when you hear add, that means that I'm not adding the 7th, I am just going to add the 9th. If I state a C9 chord and I only say that, then what's happening is I am telling the person, or I am giving instructions to include all of the tones up to 9th, which how the chord is built. So root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th. Chord progressions will be another video that I go into detail. But if we go full circle back to where we were talking in the beginning about the different modal pentatonic scales, if I were to play something like 2-5, 2-5, 1-2, a chord progression like that, I am emphasizing that the 2 chord is my foundation, which in turns means that I'm in the Dorian mode, because I'm referencing my foundational point off of the 2. If I were playing that progression, then I could use the Dorian scale, the Dorian pentatonic, and so on and so forth. So keep in mind, this video is a broad overview of the 7 tones and how much there is to those 7 tones, the natural scale. In the future, I'll be making specific videos showing you how to learn it. I will make specific videos going into detail on the subjects like the chords, chord function, how they work, all that kind of stuff, the scales, how to use them, harmony, all different types of things. But we'll have to save those for, more detailed videos where I could just focus on one single subject. For now, I'm going to post up all of the charts that I used so that you guys could take screenshots of them. And then in the future, we'll use those charts in other videos as we learn more. I want to thank you all for watching, and God bless all of you on your learning journey. It never ends. So when you are learning music, you are going to be learning it for, the rest of your life. It's a never ending process, and it's a beautiful process. And I just want to thank all of you for watching. And please, leave some comments. Let me know some things you'd like to look at, and we'll take it from there.